Hey, it's Dennis O'Brien back again on Let's Talk About It with Susan Johnson. We have a very special show for you, very relevant to what's going on right now. We're having a very important election nationwide and also here in the town of Windham. And we have with us today our two registrars of voters, Kimberly DeSaulniers, the Republican registrar, and Luis Rodriguez, the Democratic registrar. And they have taken time out from their busy work with early voting to talk to you all about voting this year, and Susan Johnson's here as well. And I also mentioned you before, Susan.
Well, that was very kind of you,
I
co-host
did.
Dennis O'Brien. And I am here because I want to celebrate the fact that this is the first year for early voting. And it's something that we put together at the legislature. And all the people who have been going to the polls early, even the governor voted early. So here we are now talking about it here in Windham on WILI, AM and FM. And we are very thrilled that we have our registrar of voters here today, both of them, to talk about what they've been doing, how they've had to get ready for this, and all the things that are really, really important to make sure we have a good turnout in this election, because it's all about people expressing their opinions when they go to vote. Right, Dennis?
It's right. It's a First Amendment right. It's one of the most important rights we have in this country.
Expressing
in the
yourself?
democracy, expressing yourself at the polls. And that is what Kimberly DeSaulniers and Luis Rodriguez are all about.
Yes, they are.
Voting.
So,
they want people to vote, right?
yes. So I want to ask you exactly what do you have to do and where do people go when they go to vote early? We'll start with Luis and then go to Kimberly.
Okay, so what they want to do when they want to vote early. So early voting started on Monday. This Monday, it's going for 14 straight days, so including tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, and going all through next week, and ending with Sunday, November 3rd. It's running most days 10 to 6. There's 2 days next week, Tuesday and Thursday, when it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and it's all at the Bellingham Auditorium at the Town Hall.
Excellent. Kimberly, and so tell us about what you have to go through when you do the early voting.
So when you come in to early vote, if you are already registered, you're going to come in, either present a form of identification or sign an affidavit. There's two people on computers. In Windham, it's a little different in each town. In Windham, we have two people on computers. They're going to check your identification, check your address, get you all checked into the system, and hand you an envelope. You're going to sign the envelope and take it to the paper checkers that you're used to seeing at the polling locations on election day. You're going to be checked in on paper. Show your ID once again to the checker. The ballot clerk will then give you a ballot. You're going to go and vote in privacy booths set up very similar to election day. And one difference is there are not tabulator machines running during early voting. You're going to seal your ballot up into an envelope, sign the outside, and you're going to deposit it into a secure locked ballot box.
Very good. Excellent.
And so, Kimberly, those ballots will be processed on election day. Is that right?
Yes. Everything is being held for the 14 days. Each day's worth of ballot are sealed up, and then everything will be processed on election day.
Okay, because I'm planning on early voting, and I know I had a question for you earlier this week I was concerned about what if I mess up my ballot?
So if you mess up your ballot and you realize that you've messed up your ballot, then you have two options. You can make the correction yourself, cross off the one you didn't want, circle the one that you do want, and still hand it in. And those will be hand counted when the ballots are counted. If you don't want to do that, you can turn the ballot back in and the ballot clerk will spoil it out. They're going to mark down through the barcode so it can't go into a machine at any time and write spoiled right across the front so it will never be used. And they're going to give you a new ballot. And you can choose to vote on a new ballot and seal that one up.
That's when you vote early, and this all takes place during the early voting.
Yes.
Okay, but if I vote early and I mess it up and I don't realize I messed it up, then you said that on election day it would be addressed.
If you mess up, meaning you overvoted. You
Yeah,
voted
that's what I mean.
More than one candidate in the same office,
Right.
and you don't realize that you messed up.
Yeah.
On election day, the machine would have spit it back out at you. Because there's no tabulator, if you don't realize the mistake, they're not going to be fed through a tabulator until election day. And no, unfortunately, there will be no way for you to correct that error. Because by the time it's fed through a tabulator, nobody's going to know whose ballot that was. Due to confidentiality, And when the ballots are opened up, they're going to be opened and separated. Envelopes on one side, ballots on the other. Always by two people, a Democrat and a Republican, always together. The envelopes are going to be moved away, then the ballots will be unfolded. So by the time we realize that there's a mistake, there's no connection with that ballot to who originally did it. So unfortunately, if you make an error and don't realize your error, that one office isn't going to count, similar to absentee balloting.
Just
All
the
your
one
other ones
office,
will,
though,
yes.
not the whole ballot.
Correct, it's
Okay,
just
that's
the one.
that's very comforting because if I mess up voting for one, I mean, there's not that many on this election because this is a national election and with with Congress persons on there and their opponents and it's not like the local election where we have a lot more candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you guys are on the ballot.
Yes.
Okay, you're both on the ballot.
There's 7 offices on the
Okay, there's
ballot.
7 offices, which is a lot less than you have for a municipal.
Yes.
So the chances I think of messing up are probably a lot less.
Probably, not
Yeah.
a lot of people.
I would guess, but
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
It doesn't happen that often.
No, I don't think it does. Okay, so that's really good to know. And okay, so you have had some experience now with you had experience with early voting in the summer. We had a state senatorial primary among the Republicans and a U.S. senatorial primary among Republicans. So the turnout was was larger, I would say, for Republicans, pretty much.
Not in Wyndham. No, the turnout was larger for percentage-wise.
Well-
It was pretty close.
Well, I can tell you the probate
Yeah.
the probate turnout 'cause I
was the
worked on
bigger.
it.
Yeah.
the
No, it
bigger
wasn't very
turn-
big,
Well, it was the bigger between the two.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it was. That's because I worked on it, but I failed. I didn't get enough votes out. But anyway, it was hard. But anyway, we had that experience, and I was a little bit dismayed by that, the primary experience, because it wasn't. The people. It was the first time, and I think people didn't understand as much as. They do now because you're getting better results now, right, Louis?
Yes, no. So far, I would say we only have the numbers for about the first 3 days of early voting,
Right.
but so far we had almost 600 people. I think it's 590 something people
Great.
that have come out and partook in early voting.
Okay, I think that's better for the workers at the polls too to have more people coming in,
Yes.
Yes.
more company.
Yes. And if that average keeps up, then that's roughly 3,000 people over 14
Yeah.
days.
If it keeps
so-
up, yeah.
Yeah,
If it keeps up.
which will be about a quarter of our registered voters,
That's pretty good.
if that keeps up.
And that would mean that what the legislature did was pretty worthwhile, for at least for the November election.
For the presidential.
Yeah, it is a president.
For a November presidential
You're
election, yes.
absolutely right because as you know, you traditionally get bigger turnouts for the presidentials than you do for the gubernatorial.
Yes.
Susan wants to say something.
Oh my goodness!
She's motioning
yes.
me.
Oh my goodness!
Susan, she does. This happens all the time. You're not used to this, but we are.
Yeah, well, otherwise, if I don't motion him, he'll talk for the entire show, and then I'll say, "Why did you want me here in the first place?"
That's not true.
Yes, it is. Anyway.
I was going to say that. I could say why it's not true, but I'll let you. I'll let you talk.
Please.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I was just going to say, generally speaking, August primaries are very, very low turnout primaries because people are away on vacation, and I don't think that we've ever had much of a turnout in an August primary. And you can each give your perceptions of what you think about August primaries. You can start with Louis.
I'm trying to think because we don't always have primaries, so we don't always have the August primaries. But primaries, by and large, are usually not as well attended. So I can't remember any numbers off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but they're definitely. But it's true, primaries in general are for the most part a lot less well attended than any regular election.
Part of it in this town anyways is half of our voters are unaffiliated. So half of our voters aren't even eligible to vote in a primary.
Good point,
So
Kimberly.
we're only taking it from, I want to say less than 6,000 voters are registered Democrat or Republican. So it cuts it in half to begin with.
Yeah, that's an
That's a
interesting
good
figure
point.
as well. But how many people in all are registered to vote?
We are in this town, active register is 11,000. It's over 11,000.
It's 300 and something.
11,300 and something. There's, over the last few days, more people have registered, so obviously it changes by day. But
That's
it's-
good.
Yeah.
That's good. We're getting more people to register. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
So that one of the things that I wanted to say about that as well is the fact that when you early vote, you can also register if you're not registered. So you have same day voter registration, and I think I talked to you about that, Louis.
So yes. So if it's been, a few years now that they added, at the time it was called Election Day registration, but if someone is not registered, they're able to come in on Election Day and prove to us that they are who they are and they live where they live. And as long as they can do that, they can register to vote and vote that same day. And now that we have early voting, same day registration is available every single day of early voting. So as long as someone comes in, if they're not registered in this town, and they can prove to us that they are who they are and they live where they live, which is easy, an ID or, a piece of mail that shows that they live at that address, their lease, something that shows that they live at that address and their regular ID, then they can register to vote and they can vote. And it's been so far a pretty easy process for most people that have come through.
That's really good information. I did not know that. I thought it was just for November 5th, not for the whole early voting process, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well,
Yep.
let me just ask, follow up on that, since you mentioned November 5th, and you can talk about November 5th, if you wouldn't mind, Kim, because you'll still have to go to the town hall, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, same day registration will always be at the town hall. So every day of early voting or November 5th, you can come in, November 5th, same hours as election day, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can come into the town hall, register to vote, and you'll vote right there. During early voting, one important thing is the day that you come in to register, you have to vote that day. So you're not going to come in, register, and leave and come back. So if you come in to register, make sure you have the time to register and cast your ballot at the same time.
That is another good point. I can't imagine somebody coming in on election day and registering and then leaving without voting. But
During early voting, we've had a couple people who wanted to register real quick and come
they had
back
to go
later
back to
because they
work,
had to get to work. Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Exactly.
One of the things that we always hear about is the absentee ballot, and I'd like to have each one of you take up one of the bits of procedure that we have to go through in order to get an absentee application and ballot. Why don't you start, Lewis, and then go to Kim?
Okay, so the first thing to have an absentee ballot, you have to you can go on the Secretary of State's website, or you can request from the town clerks an absentee ballot application. They're available on the Secretary of State's website. You can actually, something new for this year, you can fill it electronically, where you can go to the Secretary of State's website and use your DMV issued ID to electronically request and sign an application that'll get sent straight to the town clerks. But once you fill out the application, then you have to mail it to the town clerks so that they can, or if you do the electronic version, they get it automatically, so that then they can receive that and process it and send you a ballot.
Did you get it right, Kimberly? So far? So far?
One important detail is it has to be your Connecticut DMV issued.
Yes.
If you try to register online or do anything online and you put in, because we've had this happen, an out-of-state driver's license or DMV ID, that is not going to work. It has to be a Connecticut issued DMV ID or driver's license. And yes, you can come into the town hall and do it. You can do it online. It can be mailed to you. You can call the registrars. We can bring it to you. We have had some people who they get their ballot in the mail, but then they have no way to get their ballot back to the town hall. So they can always call the registrar's office and we will both go. We've had to do that a few times, go pick it up and return it for them.
So some people are blind. How do you deal with people who have visual problems?
If they request us to come out to them, then we will go out to them, always both of us, and we can read them the ballot, we can fill in the bubbles for them, whatever they need us to do. Mm-hmm. We can go and complete everything for them if that's something that they're comfortable with.
Great. And so the other thing that and I know Dennis has experience with this, so but I'll just toss this out for you, Kim, first. Nursing facilities, people want to vote and they're living in the nursing facilities. Do they contact you? How do you find out about that?
So for the nursing facilities, they don't have to contact us. Every year we put together a packet and we have good relationships with all 3 nursing homes in town with the recreation departments. We put together a packet of registration cards, absentee ballot applications, a list of the people that are already registered from that address, so that they have an idea of who's usually voting, and also so that they can let us know if anybody has no longer lives there. And we drop that off with a date that we're going to come in and do the balloting. We have sometimes, if the home requests us to, we will go room to room and help them fill out the absentee ballot applications, because sometimes that can be overwhelming for the staff. After they are all finished, they call us, we go pick them up, and then we come with the ballots, and it's always both of us, always together, and we will, some residents, you can just hand them their ballot, they can take care of it and hand it back, and if they need any kind of assistance, anything read to them if they're vision impaired, some people might need help filling in the bubbles because their hands aren't so steady anymore, anything that they need, we help them, make sure that they're all signed, sealed, everything's good. We bring them I voted stickers so that they can wear them. And two of the homes actually set up sometimes a room. Douglas Manor does a really nice job. She decorates red, white, and blue and sets up a room so they can actually be brought into there as if they're coming to a voting location.
That's great.
So,
And Louis, in terms of deputies, I used to be able to be, anybody could, and not anybody, but a lot of people in town could be deputies, and you do have deputies who assist you. Are they part of this process?
Our deputies can be part of this process. Usually, in the last few years, Kimberly and myself have been the one that have gone through with the absentee balloting process. But when you meant that, did you mean specifically about absentee balloting process, or did you mean the general election process?
All the above.
So yes, no, we have deputies. They have regular office hours. They're there every single week doing voter registration, and they also worked the polls many of the times. So many of the times, some people might not have known, but when they've gone to the polls, they have encountered our deputies, assisting at the polls. Right now, they've been working, during the early voting process. They've been helping out there, doing the registration process there. And then on election day, they'll be there with us in the office, answering all the phone calls. So yes, they're 100% heavily involved in this whole process.
So I want to focus on the same day voter registration a little bit more, because I think that it's really important for people to know that you have a deadline for regular registration, right? And did we pass that? Did we not?
yes, the 18th.
Yeah. And so here we are now. You can still register to vote if you go to the town hall. Tell us about that.
If you're not registered, you can come in. Like Louis explained, you do have to have, the ID requirements are different. You do have to prove to us who you are and that you live where you say you live. When you're proving who you are, whether it's same day registration or at the polling location, it doesn't matter. You can show us a California driver's license, anything that shows that you are who you are. Proving your address, we have to have something, utility bill, something pre-printed that has your name and your address so that we know that you do currently live in town. If the address on your license is already changed to town, then the license suffices. You don't need anything else. Come in, we get you registered. It's a fairly quick process if there's no long line, and there hasn't been. Everything's moved pretty steady. I don't think anybody's waited very long. We get you registered in the computer, and then once you enter the early voting location, you are going to a little bit of a separate area. There is one same-day registration ballot clerk because the ballots are a different color. So if you were handed a different color ballot, that's why we have to keep track of them. It's the exact same ballot, just printed on different color paper. They will give you a ballot. The rest of the process is the same. You're going to fill it out, seal it up. They're all going to be dropped into the same receptacle.
Very good. Thank you.
So even when Bill Sayers was the registrar of voters many years ago, I think there was an organization in place called ROVAC. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and the kind of support that you get, involvement you get from ROVAC?
Sure. So ROVAC is an organization that is made up out of, all the registrar of voters in the state of Connecticut. We all belong to ROVAC, and the leadership of ROVAC is current registrar of voters. So it's an organization run by registrar of voters, and ROVAC holds 2 yearly conferences, and then there's also just constant communications with ROVAC. We have an exclusive Facebook group where we can all just give each other information. They're currently, sending, emails all the time, and they're just working towards helping elections and our jobs, go well, and try to teach all the registrars in the state, because not all of us have been working as long as we have.
Right.
Other people are brand new. Even this might be their first election.
It happens.
So it's good to have all that knowledge at your disposal.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's wonderful, and that you have all these ways of, especially for, as you say, newer registrars, because there's always change. Change is, inevitable. It happens, and it's always nice to have people who are as experienced as you two are to handle this thing, especially when you have something new like early voting. This is
Yes.
great. It's great that we have such experience and capability among our two registrars, Kimberly DeSaulniers and Luis Rodriguez, and that they're doing a great job with our voting. I think one thing I'm confident in is if there's any, after the election, if there's any kind of controversy in any way, it's not going to affect the town of Wyndham, because I know we have great capability here, and I know that I'm sure you have really good assistance, and that you manage the situation very well. And it's not that large of a town either. It's not like Bridgeport or Hartford, New Haven, which is probably where maybe the lines are longer for early voting there. I think Governor Lamont had a stand in line. Pretty sure wherever he voted.
He was glad to do that. And
I saw him in the.
It said in the newspaper that he went up and down the line and said hi to everybody, and then went back to his spot in line. But he was very happy about the early voting, and he was glad to do that. And I think also when you take a look at some of the safety features that we have in the system here, for example, you have to have that ID before you get your absentee application. You have to show where you're living. All these things are safety features that Connecticut has that a lot of other states don't have. I mean, we need to really stress the fact that Connecticut has a lot of guardrails built into the system for years and years. They've always been there. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the safety features and how, I mean, you have done some of that already, but how does that work so we don't run into the problems that maybe other states might?
We have a number of checks and balances systems with the identification. That is why we're showing it twice. So far, we haven't had anybody upset about having to pull their ID out twice. They're coming in and showing the computer worker the identification so that they can make sure that the ballot that they're issuing in the computer is the correct person. And then the computer assistant will then show the voter the sticker that this is your name, this is your address. The voter will verify, and then once they get to the list, they're going to verify again that they've crossed off the right name there, and that they're going to look at the identification again. So there's a number of checks to make sure that that right person has that right ballot. As far as the ballots themselves, transfer and everything of the ballots, every morning or every evening the ballot box is emptied out. So in the morning, both myself, Lewis, our tabulator clerk, even though there's no actual tabulator, we still have a clerk there. The tabulator clerk and the moderator, we all verify that the box is empty. We zip it up, we seal it, we all sign that that's the seal number, and it's not opened again all day. At the end of the day, we verify the seal again. The town clerk comes in with us. We empty out the ballots with all of us together. We print the reports, and we match up every single ballot envelope, still sealed, we don't open them, to the report to make sure that every ballot issued was returned and every ballot we have was on the report, so that there's no mistakes. They're then put into a separate ballot bag, a smaller one. They're labeled with the day, the time, exactly what's in there for each district. They are zipped up, sealed, everybody signs and has a copy, and then they're put into another bigger transfer case. That seal is broken every day because the new day has to go into it. Locked, double sealed, multiple witnesses from different parties, and then they are locked up in a fireproof vault
That's
until
wonderful.
election day.
Thank you so much for that. And so now we're talking about election day for a minute, Lewis. So sounds to me like you might have a longer or a bigger group of ballots to count than you did before early voting. Tell us a little bit about your plan for ballot counting for these early voting things and the absentee applications and ballots that come back to you. Sounds like you might have more than what you used to have.
Yes, because for a normal election like this one, I went back to 2020 wasn't normal, so I went back to 2016, and I think we had 400 and something absentee ballots. So right now, as far as I know, I think the town clerks have issued somewhere around 300 absentee ballots, but now we have over 500 in just the first few days of early voting. So we're definitely going to have a lot more ballots. So what we're going to do is those ballots and the absentee ballots are not counted until election day. We have a moderator that oversees the counting of the absentee ballots and the early voting ballots and the same day registration ballots, and we have groups of workers, Democrat and Republican, working together in teams to verify that everything was properly done on the absentee ballots or the same day registration ballots. They'll separate them, and then they will look at them to make sure they can go through a machine. And as long as they can go through a machine, they'll be run through a tabulator, just like they do at the polls, that will tabulate the results. But if any of them have to be hand counted, then they will also take part in hand counting. Everything is done with Democrats and Republicans together, working together to tabulate all those results. And we're gonna have more people than we normally do doing that, and they're probably gonna be working a little bit longer because usually it's not a long process, but this time it could take a little bit longer.
Yeah, I figured it probably would. And the other thing I wanted to just check in with you on, because our voting machines, when you go to the polls, people run their ballot through that voting machine, but you also have a paper copy that accompanies that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So everyone in Connecticut gets a paper ballot, and the paper ballot goes through the machine, but then the machine deposits the ballot in the black box that you have. Those ballots at the end of the night are going to get put into a ballot bag, and then that's going to get sealed up. Those seals are written down, and that's all done with people of different parties, moderators, and the Democrat and the Republican. Everyone making sure those get brought to the town hall so they can be sealed up and stored in a fire safe. And then if we have to do an audit of some sort, the state will pick random places to do an audit, or sometimes if an election is too close, within half a percentage of 1%, then we might have to come and do a hand count of those ballots, and so they're available there. But there is always a paper copy of your ballot. It doesn't get destroyed. We have to keep it for a long time, and so we always keep the paper copies so that they're always there.
That security is important. Anything else, Kim, about that?
Nope, that covered most of it. Just to reiterate that it's always, the ballots are never touched by one party ever. We don't transport them. We don't, whether they are voted ballots or unvoted ballots, there's always both people on election day when those workers are counting them in the teams. If your other half, a Democrat and Republican together, if the other half of your team gets up to get a drink, to go to the bathroom, anything, the other team member gets up from the table too. So there is never any time ever where the machines, the memory cards, the ballots, anything is ever in the hands of only one party, one person from one party. It's always when we do curbside voting, or we've had a few people who can't quite, they have come up the first set of stairs, not realizing there was a second set of stairs, and decided they didn't want to continue all the way up. We'll help them on whatever floor they're on. We'll go out to the street, whatever they need. But even at that point, when we carry the ballot up to the ballot box, there's always both of us carrying it up. So there's never, ever any time where any of that isn't in the hands of both parties.
That's great information.
That is fantastic, Kimberly, and very reassuring. And before, sometimes people tune into our show in the middle, or near the end, or maybe they tune out. And so we talked. Louis talked about the schedule for the early voting starting with Saturday. Could you reiterate that so that people who have tuned in can get that, Kimberly?
So starting with Saturday, the early voting will continue 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day all the way through until Sunday the 3rd. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday through Friday, then Saturday and Sunday again. The only two differences are Tuesday, October 29th, and Thursday, October 31st. There are extended hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Nobody can enter the room until the polls open, 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. depending on the day. The moderator will announce polls are open, and immediately the line can start moving. Very important to note, the polls close at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. on the dot, same as election day. If you're not physically standing in the line when the moderator says the polls are closed, you cannot vote. So you don't want to cut it close, because if you're running across the parking lot or running up the stairs, you are not in the line. So at that close, as soon as the moderator announced that the polls are closed, somebody's going to go stand at the back of the line. One of our employees was stand at the back of the line, and they cannot let anybody pass that line. So don't cut it too close, and don't. We'd really rather people didn't ask and try to persuade the line monitor to allow them into the line, because they really take the integrity of their job very seriously, and they don't want to be put in a tough position, but they do have to turn people away if the polls have already closed.
We're so happy that they take it seriously, and you take it seriously, both of you, and you take it seriously, I'm sure, in supervising the staff and the volunteers and they're not volunteers. I guess they get paid, but they don't get paid very much.
They're paid fairly well. Most of them, we have had pay raises for our
Oh, great.
So most of them are actually very happy with the new pay.
Oh, that's great.
our poll workers were fantastic before.
Makes it a lot easier
but
to
yeah,
recruit them, yeah.
they are fairly happy with their pay, and we also feed them. So
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, as Susan says, food is always important. I always say, why are we doing food for this event? You gotta do food, people won't show up.
So you got food, they show, yeah. They get to say hi.
So there's plenty of opportunity between this Saturday, and election day. The day before the election day there's no early voting. That's Monday. The would be what, the
Fourth.
The 4th.
Yep,
'cause
Monday the 4th.
I should know that the election day is November 5th. So Monday the 4th, there's no early voting, but from tomorrow, Saturday, until the 3rd of November, plenty of opportunities to vote early. So
Yes.
I think I'm going to do it. I
Me
did
too.
it. I did it for the primary, and I enjoyed doing it. It was
Yeah.
fun.
And don't forget, if you're not registered, you can vote the same day as we have the early voting, or you can vote the same day on November 5th, but you got to do it at the town hall in all circumstances, whether it's early voting or whether it's the day of the election. Am I right, registrars?
absolutely. One important thing to note is that once you've early voted, even though there's no tabulator, once you've dropped your ballot into that ballot box, it's not the same as an absentee ballot. You can't have it back. Once it's been dropped, it's officially cast, and it's cast.
So everything's going smoothly so far. People have been cooperative. They seem to enjoy the process. And,
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, you haven't had any difficulties yet.
Everyone's been very happy.
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's pretty good.
Thankfully, yeah, everything's gone rather smoothly. The voters seem happy when they've come in. They've been happy. The lines, when there have been lines, like right at 10 a.m., sometimes, you could have 10 people in line, but they've been moving very smoothly and very quickly. So no one's been, held up for a long time. And everyone seems to have left the experience positively.
It's very nice when things work well for in any respect.
Yeah.
In any context, and that's really good to hear. So, folks, early voting is going very well. People seem to be enjoying it. The registrars are enjoying it. The people that are working with the registrars are enjoying it, and I'm enjoying hearing about it. So I'm definitely going to try to vote early. I'm not sure when, but it'll be soon.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to vote early, and I don't know exactly when either, but I'm going to try and find a spot in my schedule. And tell us the hours again, just so that I can maybe have them etched indelibly in my brain.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and that's statewide. So no matter what town you live in, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Tuesday and Thursday next week, the 29th and the 31st, Halloween, it will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Those are the 2 extended days.
Okay, great. And so we have those chances as well. And I just want to ask you, because you have been, both of you have been involved before early voting, and I just wanted to know, and you don't know quite everything yet because we haven't had, election day on the 5th. So a comparison and contrast so far with maybe what had happened where people had to do same-day voter registration at the town hall, and now when you have the early voting and the same-day voter registration that goes on for this whole period of time for early voting, which started on the 21st of October and will end on the 3rd of November. So if you want to give your perceptions, that would be good.
As far as the
Yeah.
early or same day registry,
Yeah.
it's very hard to tell. We have had a number of same day registrations, not an overwhelming amount, but a decent amount. We've had several people come in. It's their first time ever voting in life, so it's very exciting to see that. We're hoping that cuts down on the line on election day, but there's just no way of knowing how many people. If people had those 14 days of early voting before, if we would have had more overall. So we could take the regular election day, same day registrations and divide them up, but we don't know if that's the case. If, people who couldn't have made it on election day are now coming because they have more times. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah, they maybe just be curious
Yeah.
about the process and just
Yeah.
wanting to see what it's like. And they have the time; they're able to squeeze it into their day, and they're doing it. That's what I'm doing, and that's what Susan's doing. And I just want to talk about a little bit about what you said about the people who are voting for the first time and how excited they are. Because whenever I vote, I get chills running up and down my spine because I think it's so important. I feel like a real American. It's really part of the American experience that I wouldn't want to miss. And unfortunately, I was born in 1943. When Jack Kennedy ran for president, it was 1960. I was 17 years old, and I missed it. I would have missed it even if the voting age was 18. But when I was young, the voting age was 21, and they changed it to 18 quite a while ago. I would say. I think
I have to say something about that.
just about everybody who's still alive, most people who are still alive cannot imagine having to be 21 to vote or to drink.
Well, just let me say, when I turned 21 was the year they made it 18 so you could vote. I waited all that time, and it's the story of my life.
Oh, so you could have voted either way.
No, I couldn't have voted. I couldn't have voted because when I was 18, you still had to vote when you're 21.
So
They
you okay?
changed it to 18.
Oh, I'm
when
glad I
turned
brought
21.
this up.
Yeah.
Us
so
older folks,
I was
us older
really,
generations,
quite
yeah.
annoyed.
I never thought of you as being that old, though, Susan. I don't know.
Thank you, Dennis.
Come on, you're certainly not like me. Anyway.
Oh, come on, I'm old too.
My oldest daughter is voting. This is her first
Oh,
time
All
voting.
right,
oh, great.
congratulations.
She turned 18 in June, so she was able to vote in the primary.
Yeah.
Because in Connecticut now, if you're 17 but you'll be 18 by the
You're a
election,
rising
you can.
18-year-old.
But this is
Rising
her first
17-year-old.
official vote because she just turned 18
That's
in June.
wonderful.
So she's very excited.
That's
That's
is
a great thing.
exciting.
Tell us about that because people have a chance to register to vote if they're 18 by election day. So tell us
Yes,
about
so
that.
in Connecticut, if you are 17, you can register to vote at 17 if you will be 18 by election day. So for the primaries, if they're in a year where we do have a primary, if you're going to be 18 on or before election day, you can vote in that primary at 17 because you're going to have a stake in the election because you're going to be allowed to vote. You can now give your opinion for the primary as well.
That
So
must have been done by the legislature. Sometimes they do something right. Right, Susan?
Yes, Dennis.
Lots of times. Okay, and I'll tell you, in terms of being bipartisan, I think that most of the votes that happen in the legislature are bipartisan.
It's about 95%.
I watch the board all the time
That's
because
great.
it's on TV and I can see S. Johnson,
So-
and I'll tell you, most of the votes seem to be bipartisan.
He does watch. He watches. And if he thinks that I'm taking too long to hit the button, he'll call me.
I'll call you. I'll say, "Hey, what are you doing? Did you fall asleep?"
No, I've been chattering with somebody.
You've been. That's right.
Chitter chatter. You get a
Not
lot
you,
of chatter
not you.
opportunities at the legislature.
Okay, Louis has
So
something. You
yeah,
want
no,
to say.
something real quick because the conversation kind of jogged something in my memory.
Sure.
That it's something that is a very unusual thing now that we have early voting. So something that hasn't come up in our town, but something that we've learned through the rollback process, and they've gone through the state and they've gotten. It's that if you are 17, if you are 18 before election day, you register like we just said. You are able to vote, and you're able to vote in the primary. But if you don't turn 18 till right close to the election, if you cannot vote early voting until you turn 18. So if you are still 17 and your birthday is November 3rd, then you can come early vote on November 3rd, but you cannot beforehand. So
Okay.
you have to be 18 when you come to cast your ballot. So it's just very few people that are, we haven't had that come up
Yeah.
yet, but that is a potential. If your birthday is right around, election day, you turn 18, you can't come in to vote until you are 18.
That is a real nuance, and as two people who deal with the law all the time, Susan and I know about all the legal nuances there are. And now that you two have been registrars for quite some time, you understand that the law is, it tries to cover almost everything, but it often doesn't.
Yes.
Things come up that are not covered, and then you go, "Ooh, gee, what do we do now?" So anyway, we have about.
I just want to say something about that as a legislator. What happens is a lot of our legislation is fixing stuff that we didn't foresee. We are not,
Yeah.
we don't have a magic ball.
Right.
We do the best we can with the testimony, listening to people when they come
Yeah.
to testify. We look at what has been done in the past. So we try really hard to make sure we cover all the angles. Nevertheless, there's always somebody that might be dissatisfied with something, or there might be something that nobody thought of. But we do run these things. I mean, it's not like we don't do research. It's not like we don't listen to the public. We do this over and over and over again, and But it's an interesting point that you say. That is that you know, a lot of the stuff that we do is a fix on stuff that we did before.
You know, time flies, and the show always flies by when you're doing it. And it seems like it's 20 minutes when it's actually about 43. But we're getting down to near the end. Matt Rupar's saying we got 3 minutes left. So, Kimberly, you got anything you want to add, or anything you think that's important that needs to be repeated before we sign off in 3 minutes?
Very important, at least to our poll workers. Be kind to the poll workers. They're working long hours. Some of them are working all 14 days straight. And the election, they're doing their job. If they're letting you know that you can't walk into the polling location with the candidate's name, they're just doing their job. So we ask you to please be nice to the poll workers and be kind to them. They have a long day, and we do have for anyone, but especially if it's your first time voting, but anyone, we have selfie stands set up at all of our polls in Wyndham. It says, I voted today, in English and Spanish. It has the Wyndham seal. You can pose in front of it, put your selfie out there if you want, and show everybody that election day is happening. And we've had several people who it's their first time voting ever that we've seen smiling in front of it. So it was really nice to see.
What a great idea.
Wow, fabulous! That's what.
Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for mentioning
that. Races for the pads. That you
Yeah, no, so here in
Stickies.
Wyndham, we are designing our own I Voted stickers. We have a contest with the local children that they will submit forms, and we have had a contest. We had a contest that on last third Thursday, we had the people there voting, and we do have a winner, and we will unveil our new I Voted sticker next year. Right now, we still have the last year's winners for this election, but this is the last time you'll get the stickers that you're getting this election.
I voted. Lewis twisted my arm to get me to vote. I was going. Come on, Lewis. I'm a busy guy here. I got a lot to do, but I did it anyway, and I'm glad I did. Anyway, there's about what? How many minutes left? 1 minute. Okay, so let's talk about the schedule now again. Repeat. Somebody.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day from now all the way through till Sunday, November 3rd. Tuesday, October 29th and Tuesday, October 31st, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Election day, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Very important to note that you have to be in line on the dot when the polls close. As long as you're in line, no matter how long that line is, if you're in the line at 8 p.m. or 6 p.m., you will get to vote.
And the straight shot voting on the November 5th, Lewis? Where are the polling places?
So polling places are the VFW, the Elks Club, and the Wyndham Center Fire Department. You can go onto our website and look up your voter registration if you're not sure exactly where to vote, or call our office.
Okay, excellent. Okay, same day voter registration is always at
Town Hall.
All right.
Okay, Kimberly DeSaulniers and Luis Rodriguez, thank you so much for taking time out for your incredibly busy schedules to come in and help our audience know all there is to know about early voting. I learned a lot just by listening to you, and that's one reason why I love doing the show called Let's Talk About It. Susan Johnson, Matt Rupar, Kimberly DeSaulniers, and Luis Rodriguez, thank you all so much. This has been a great show. We'll have another great show for you next week on Let's Talk About It. Thank you.